Aloha, and thank you for joining us. It's another Wayne Coito Show, and I'm honored to be joined by two of my very good friends and two guys that I'm always looking towards when all the confusion in the world, especially when it comes to the sporting world, comes us. Oh, look at them. There goes my delay, so you can hear me twice. But if you're not watching on one device, watch on two because I get two views. So, in any case, I'd like to welcome, of course, our man Sean. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing good, Wayne.
And of course, we got Shane, our Laulauhead. No Laulauhead today, though.
No, no Laulauhead today. He's still in hiding, wondering what's the future
Yeah,
holds for our football season.
I don't blame you. I know our brother, the Boflo Cave. He also is told me he's probably gonna, wait until the season comes to get back to writing his rhymes, and we're all kind of just like deflated a little bit, but we're gonna get to that later. But let's talk about first yesterday's fight, the Max Holloway fight, and we know that a lot of people in Hawaii were anticipating it, and it's such a, it's Max Holloway. It's nice to see somebody, like us from our island who makes it on the big stage, and they go all the way in the Middle East was Abu Dhabi at this fight island that Dana White was able to put together, and the double main event. The first was Holloway uh, against the Australian. I don't even really know how to say his name that well. I don't even want to talk about him because I'm mad about it, but that's okay. I can get over it. But what about you two, Sean and Shane? What are your thoughts just on the fight itself? I'll start with Sean.
I thought it was a good fight. It's tough because it could go either way, and it's hard because you kind of gotta beat the champ. To be the man, you gotta beat the man. And Max was pretty busted up at the end. He was bleeding all over the place. When they were doing the decision. So it's rough. It's rough. It was a rough week for Hawaii.
So wait, what, okay, all right. Well, Shane, so your sounds like you, Sean, are. How do you feel about the? I mean, I know you're upset about the decision with Max, but do you think it was a fair decision?
So when I watched the first time I watched it, I thought, he got robbed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched some videos today, with there's some explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Like Rob Demelo posted a video, so I can see it. We want him to win. We're biased. I'm biased. So I'm trying to deal with it, trying to see it the other way, and I can see it the other way, but it still sucks. So.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Shane? What are your thoughts after that match yesterday?
Yeah, same here. I mean, the key to me was that last two takedowns that the other guy had at the end. I think that was the killer right there.
But he got up. So I mean, I think I could say that too. But Max got up. He got up in the cage, and he got up right away. He never was in a compromised position. So that's hard to see. But I don't score. I've never scored MMA fight before. I've never done it, and I'm sure a lot of us have never done it. But at the same time, when you're looking at it, Shane, having watched UFC, we talked about this. We watched UFC since UFC 1, the good old days, and now last night was 252, was it? I believe 251.
251.
So 251 UFC events on pay-per-view already, but not as much blood as we used to see maybe in the days of Ken Shamrock. But does that matter? Like what Sean said after the match, Max looked a little bloody. Do you think that was a major difference as well, Shane?
He seemed but he didn't seem that bust up. And then I read I think it was the Mellows tweet, or was it shooting? Somebody tweeted saying that 10 rounds with this guy, and Max was never in major trouble. He never was in vicious trouble.
Yeah.
But I don't know. When I was watching the UFC countdown and it showed highlights of the first fight and how he was getting all those leg kicks, but it's funny because Max said the I don't know the logic behind it, but he said the leg kicks that make sound are the ones that don't hurt. I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of strange. So he said, oh, watch the fight. Like every time the guy was kicking him, like you hear that slapping sound. But he said those are the kind that don't hurt. So I was like, oh, okay.
It probably hurt to the rest of us.
Exactly.
But I mean, Volkanovski came in saying, "Don't just watch out for my kicks," right, Sean? He said he got a whole round game, but it stayed up on them. They were up basically the whole match. They never really went to the ground. And when he did get, to me, as someone who doesn't score UFC fights, I think Max's knockdowns were more impressive than this Australian dude grabbing him and bring him to the ground, which Max was able to turn up. Was able to counter every time anyway. So I think, well, where do we go from here? And I think in terms of a part 3, Sean, what do you think?
Sure. I mean, it was a good fight. I mean, the key is, like, I think most people will say that Max won the first 2 rounds. Volkanovski won the last 2 rounds. It's that third round that was, like, the tiebreaker. So, like, Max was kind of even lucky to get a split decision because one of the judges inexplicably gave him the 5th round. So, like, I was going to ask you, where does Max go from here? But, I mean, I think that Max,
what got me was Max is 3 years younger than Volkanovski. Max is... still very young, 28, 29. I think that it would help him to get... I think that he deserves another shot because, come on, that was close. Like you said, 10 rounds and he never really got overpowered, right? He might have possibly was made to look... He might have gotten the upper or let Volkanovski get the upper hand a few times, maybe. But it seemed like definitely in this fight that the momentum was on his side, that the energy was on his side, like the Vegas odds had changed after the second round. So I don't know how many people jump on those odds in game as they change. But not to talk about gambling, that's not where. But it does show just how the odds really swung in Max's favor. He enters as an underdog. He becomes. Then Volkanovski's the underdog after the second round, but the third round they said could have gone either way. Shane, how did you see the third round?
Jeez, it was a back and forth fight. So as far as it was really close.
Yeah, it was close. You're right.
The only thing I thought, like, totally Max outstriked them, but it was just those two little takedowns. The killer, man, and it's just like it's frustrating.
Yeah, very frustrating.
But see, so I was asking like all my friends last night because I don't know the scoring either. So when somebody does get up after a takedown, do you get points for that? I mean,
I don't know. I think it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to counter. Like Max was so good. Like I was like, man, his core is really awesome. He could push up against the cage and stand up like that. I was like, wow, that's impressive to do that.
He got up super fast, so I was like, he should get points for getting up, right? So I was like,
Well, let's look at some of the comments. We said everybody's saying hi. Gavin says, Sean again, dude's a celebrity now. Yep. Ian says UFC has issues with judges. Reminds me of boxing. Pat got robbed. He also said Max won 3 rounds. Catherine says, Chee-hoo, great to see you 3. And hi, Catherine. And Keone said his kicks did damage. And I don't know who he's talking about, who he said his, but both of them had very damaging kicks. I thought that Max got a lot of good ones in. But in terms of the part 3, I think Max, I think that Volkanovski deserves to be able to fight somebody else because he's a champ. But I still think Max is a top contender. So it'd probably give him some motivation now to go and fight someone else. Gain his confidence and come back because Max looked great. I mean, in terms of his health, in terms of his stamina, he looked excellent. And I thought that it was impressive what he was able to do without even having a sparring partner. So, but I don't know. Do you think that hurt him in the end, Sean, not having a sparring partner?
possibly. Like, we're living in such crazy times. It's like, who knows? I'd like to see a third fight. Like, they've each won one, so yeah, maybe like he gets one more fight and then they'll fight after. But,
Yeah, that's what I see. What about you, Shane? What do you say, Shane?
Yeah, I would like to see a rematch.
Yeah.
But maybe, like you said, Volkanovski, he deserves to get a shot, fight someone else, and then maybe Max should fight somebody else.
Yeah,
and
I think
just
Max
warm up
should.
for this. Yeah.
Timmy says heard rumors that Max might try and go up to 155, and that's what I'm thinking too. He might try and move up.
Yes, he should.
To lightweight,
so he doesn't have to cut so much weight. Right.
I know he looks so different when he's 145. Yeah. I mean, he does look even. He even looks different physically. But when he's described the greatest featherweight of all time, I don't know if there's something like, when BJ kind of fizzled out towards the end, and we still see BJ as one of the greatest of all time, pound for pound. But it's hard because, the sport moves quickly, and, when Volkanovski said the best era is over, now he's beaten him twice in a matter of 6 months, 6.5 months. It's almost like Max is the one that's going to have to claw his way back up if he wants it. But I think Dana White, as somebody who likes to gauge fights himself and score them himself, whether one fight or the other he believes it was unjust in a decision or he believes deserves another chance, he's always ready to schedule that rematch. So I'm pretty sure Dana White will do that. Plus, Max is still one of the most most beloved fighters out there, probably on the planet, I would imagine as well.
Yeah.
He's very well respected. And
he
talking
sells
about
fights.
how he looked different, took me a while to get used to his long hair. I was like, his new long hair look.
What were you saying, Sean?
Yeah, I was saying, like, Max can sell a fight, and those pay-per-view buys are so important.
Yeah.
And, like, even Dana White, he was pissed off that Volkanovski won. So, I mean, yeah, so he should he'll get another shot. He should.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we see one soon, maybe by the end of the year or maybe at the beginning of next year. We wait a little while. But let's move on to the next topic, and that's going to be the stadium. Last week I had Senator Glenn Wakai, who represents the area that the stadium is in. He came to talk about the new stadium project and was very optimistic because I challenged him right away, asking him whether this project would be done and done on time. And wow, in a matter of days since that interview, a bill, so I'm just going to briefly, by my recollection, a bill that stated that one government agency would shift the money over to another government agency, so government agencies that fall under our state government. In some language in the bill left some ambiguity wherein the agency that would be receiving the funds from the other agency could potentially have more power or more jurisdiction over other projects, just given the language of the bill, which is some real minutia. And it is what it is, though, because it is what it is. People that want to stop something from happening will make it happen. In my opinion, like, to be able to fumble on one word and to say, well, we have to wait till next year, because that's the thing, it's the end of the session, so we'll have to wait till next year and see. But Sean, what do you have to say? What is your so basically it can delay the project till next year, or at least a year, given that these funds will not be able to. But if Sean, you can add something as well if you needed to.
So my comment is typical, so typical. Like, this is the perfect time to go. Like, nothing's happening right now, so like let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go, right? And it's so frustrating because it's just gonna push everything back. The construction costs are gonna go up. It's just lost time. Aloha Stadium might collapse. You never know. So it's typical. That's what I have.
Well, Kai Kahele, the senator that was objected to the bill is somebody who's running for Congress, United States Congress, and somebody who played for UH, wore the the jersey. It wasn't on the volleyball team, but I don't know if he objected just on the basis of that wording or if he's against the project and all. But Shane, what is your gut feelings after when you heard that the Senate bill died in the legislature?
Well, kind of like Sean's reaction was like, it's like just a typical Hawaii problem, just so like how you said, it was just a minor wording. I think it was just numbers. It was supposed to say 65, but it said 99 or some crazy thing like that. And then now it delayed a year, and the newspaper said that's going to cost the project $20 million more. I'm like, wow. It's like it's the same kind of issue that we got to deal with over and over again. It's like Hawaii's always behind the 8 ball or something.
No, and it is, and it's frustrating. The exact wording of the objection was that the wording of the bill, which was intended to allow the state to grant 99-year leases on the 98-acre Halawa footprint. So we talked about that, right? On the show, Glenn Wakai talking about monetizing our space, our state assets, and that's what the stadium would be used for. But he says, Senator Kahele says that the wording inadvertently would also open up other areas under HCDA jurisdiction, which is a Hawaii Community Development Authority, to expanded leases. So I'm not sure why that's a big deal in the first place. But maybe we'll have to have Senator Wakai come on and explain it. But he also says in the Star Advertiser article, he's quoted as saying that this was a fumble on the 1-yard line, and the state comptroller called it a monumental error. Senator Donovan Dela Cruz of Milani Mauka, Waipio, our area, Sean, says, I think the bill's death is unfortunate. Beside the fact that we need this project for our economy, now that tourism is down, it is going to cost more now. So now we're stuck with, now it almost is kind of Rail 2.0, where we're going to incur higher costs because people can't, can't just do what we're supposed to do. Sean, but when you look at this new stadium and you look at the timing of it, I guess with everything that's happening in the world, do you think that it's appropriate maybe that we hold off, or do you think it's, like you said, it's a good time? What do you mean by that? It's a good time?
Absolutely not. Like, it's $20 million that this state doesn't have.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of spending an extra $20 million. We don't have the luxury of putting off, holding games in Aloha Stadium until 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just want to catch the rail to a UH football game at the new Aloha Stadium, before I die. That's my goal in life, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So it's just it's terrible. It's terrible.
What about you, Shane? What are your thoughts with just the time that we're dealing in, and why we should build now if we can?
Yeah, we definitely should build now. I mean, just to expand on Sean's comments, but that's what I've always told my wife too. It's like, I don't think I'll ever be able to ride this rail before I die. So it's not. I'm gonna be dead before this thing even completes. And then everybody jokes around because of the failure of the rail project. Mm-hmm. Already, when people see, Hawaii's going to build a new stadium, immediately the first comment out of the public is, yeah, right. It's going to take 50 years to build one new stadium.
Yeah.
At this rate. And then, that's not surprising that people feel this way.
Yeah, but it isn't. And that's a hard time. It's it takes away, it really makes people lose even more trust in the government, which is that's not the trend that we want the government, the wrong way to go. We want more people to believe in this government, especially with an election coming on soon for the mayor of Honolulu, which...
If I could add one more thing, it's just more bad news, and it's like the last thing we need right now is more bad news with them, Pac-12 canceling games with just all this stuff, and it's just.
Well, we're about to get into that. Well, let's segue into that now.
So
I mean, it is what it is. Well, first of all, it's not just the Pac-12. I'm gonna start off with this right now. Sean, we've been in a place. I know you've been lately on this trend of trying to, but where we've been talking about. You know where we are at the season, and I don't want to water down. I saw you posted about a BYU. Honestly, Sean, I'm against any watered down season. I'm really against anything that's fake and not a real season. I'm done with.
Right.
I'm done with trying to squeeze something that we cherish, like football season in this country, and trying to water it down and trying to add and. We need to, so here's your chance to just say it like it is, because it's, I'm going to reference Rob DeMello's interview that he did with Neil Everett, Sports Center.
That was great.
Yeah, and Neil Everett talked about how important football is to him, but how he doesn't see it happening. I mean, I would go and check out that interview if you have a chance, because it's real. We're at a place now where we're trying to really squeeze some really impossible, just safeguards and everything else that makes it almost impossible to play a game with contact, any game at all, let alone being in the same vicinity as other humans right now. But Sean, before we even get there, I mean, what are your thoughts? And we'll go back to the Pac-12 losing it, because this all goes back to, you're talking about the Pac-12 going to conference only. We already had the Big Ten saying they're only going to play conference games. We already had the Ivy League say they're not going to have any fall sports. We already had Morehouse say they're not going to play any games. We already had Fordham, so their conference said no. So we already have lost 4 games. At this point, I love that people even thought there was a chance that we could schedule another team, even one more team, because we scheduled the same team twice next year. So the chances of us trying to secure 4 new opponents for this year, good luck with that one. But Sean, just what are your thoughts, and how does this change? Because I don't know, you were on a place of kind of football season, but you seem to be on a streak of trying to make it happen. So what do you think? What has changed for you?
Yeah, so it's tough because without the Pac-12 opponents, those are our big money games.
Yeah,
and this is a athletic department that's struggling to pay the bills anyway. So I mean, you take out the Oregon game, which we're scheduled to make $1 million. You take out the Arizona game, which we're going to make almost $500,000 on, and then you take out the biggest home draw with UCLA, who hasn't been here in 80 years. So I mean, it's hard to justify, because with the Mountain West games, I think you're looking at a break-even proposition at best. So it's kind of for me, I teeter between being optimistic and pessimistic, and it's this constant struggle within myself. So right now I'm
I'm just calling you out, Sean, because it's true. I suffer from the same thing. It's just that it's
it's no need. It's at this point, it's no need. Right? What? Mountain West, who cares? It's those Pac-12 games are the money makers.
But at the same time, though, I just really am worried about winning the conference. More than anything, I just want to win the conference. So if we could play a conference, right, Shane? Would you be down with just a conference season, and Mountain West conference season?
Sure, I'd be down with any football. But I try to be optimistic too, but I have to start being realistic.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it happening already. I just really don't see football happening at all. It's unfortunate, but I just can't see it. And everything is just always changing, and it has to be a uniform agreement. You can't have one conference doing one thing and another conference doing another thing. It's college football. It's one entity.
Yes,
Everybody
exactly.
has to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's I Mountain West is not just reacting faster. It just seems like they're just.
I talked to in the Mountain West and that's an issue right there. Just given the seniority of our school in relation to the rest of the conference, obviously the Power 5 schools, have the most power. Russ said he spoke with a few buddies who believe in Pac-12. They'll postpone or cancel the season. Yeah, at this point it'll probably be postponed or canceled. The problem was, and Russ also talked about spring, Juho going to spring. I talked about putting in spring in April. A lot of us talked about moving it to spring way back when. But the issue is a lot of the 80s don't want it at all. They don't want spring football. And the Penn State 80 said she didn't want it. I know a lot of people are like, not even, that's something that's not, which is shocking because the rest of us believe that should be one of the most, talked about or strategized outcomes is to move everything to the spring, but it looks like they don't really want to do that. But I think that puts everything in jeopardy, which is going to be difficult. But even Brandy says too many unknowns, even just doing conference games, and that's true as well. So if we can get any games, it is what it is. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to waste the season if I was a player. I wouldn't want to waste eligibility on a season that just is hammer-jang and just, you can't even get it off the ground and it starts. I mean, it does make, for us, it would move, our season wouldn't start till, last weekend of September, right? So,
I thought it was the first weekend of October.
Yeah, October.
Okay, yeah, so whichever season, but which will be good. Russ says, and this is something that they talked about, is the issue was that they'll have two seasons in 1 year, which is true. If you have a spring season, you're going to have the spring and the fall pretty much butt heads and have 3 months in between. So that's true as well. I mean, there's no easy way out of this, but if you want a full season, I don't think you can do it in the fall. And the full season it pays itself. It's like the chicken and the egg, like Sean said, it's like we need the money to play these games, but we need the money to even get on the field to play these games. So it's like, how do we rectify all of this? How are we going to make this all work and make this whole jigsaw puzzle work? Is we just at this point have to wait for the rest of the conferences, the other dominoes to fall. I know that the Big 12 commissioner and SEC commissioner are starting to finally come around to the idea of canceling the season. And finally, I mean that just because people are already on, it's hard because people are going, they got their hopes and their dreams set on this season, and especially students, talking about the student athletes obviously being on campus, but at the same time, they're being forced to be on campuses where students are not even allowed to be on because, it's too dangerous for students to be in class, yet the athletes are playing. So that's another part of this that I think is kind of hypocritical on the part of the NCAA. And having worked in that building, having been a part of the NCAA structure, not working directly for the association, but working for a member institution like a conference, I know that student safety is always talked about, is always brought up for any new initiative, any new policy change. Student safety is first. Yet, it seems like a lot of that is getting thrown out the window when you're just telling kids to go back to class or go back to practice, but you're telling kids you can't go back to class yet. So it just seems a little hypocritical. But Sean, how do you look at that?
I mean, it's typical. I've heard the argument for them not wanting to play in spring is because it messes up the NFL draft schedule. It would bleed into that. But I mean, that's 1% of the students that get drafted. So I mean, that's a really small. But I mean, I don't know the real reason, but it's just tough. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen this year. I'm trying to be optimistic, but the more we go down, the more stuff gets canceled, and you just see things just receding. And I agree. You should be trying to keep it close to the best. I agree with their decision to just go in conference for those big conferences, and it's the Mountain West has to be reactionary because they have no power.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And our school is holding on by its fingernails. In this conference, we're barely a member, so we're reactionary to a reactionary school. So, I mean, that's what I have to say. It's just kind of the way it is, and it's just a tough deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that like you said, when you're powerless, like the Mountain West is in relation to the Power Five, you have to just wait and see. But Shane, how long can we wait? Shane, how long can we wait?
Jeez, how long can we wait? I don't think we can wait any much longer. I mean, jeez. And like how we talked about this before, I mean, with a first-year coach, it's a lot harder.
Exactly.
Without, you know what I mean? Without all this
Absolutely.
practice, and then have that article that came out that ranked Hawaii's schedule as the 23rd toughest in the nation. It's like, oh, with no practice, first-year coach. It's like, oh, man. I know Hawaii always has to struggle, but talk about adding more obstacles to our football program. You know what I mean? It's not like we have a struggle to win any game for us, but now you throw all these other obstacles in front of us.
Yeah.
It's like, gosh, we need. If we don't start soon, I mean, I'm glad that the Bears got back to practice, but it's still not the same, man.
If you want to call it that, I mean, they're not even touching. They're taking pictures, you know, and they're like doing walkthroughs, looking at the playbook. But I think that's why the Graham hire is it might be a blessing, guys, because he this isn't, you know, he's not like a rookie head coach. Yeah. He's been around the block, so it might work. You know, like I'm glad he's here. I'm glad he's got some, you know, some jobs under his belt, and he knows what to do. It's not his first rodeo.
Yeah, definitely. We have a coach who's been around the block a few times. Brandy says, I hate the thought of our seniors missing their last year to play sports, but safety should come first. Probably better just to have not to have a fall season for sports, and I agree with that as well. I would hate to, if we could somehow layer the seasons, put all the seasons in the spring, I would rather them work on that. And it's difficult. You have to staff those games. You have to be able to pay for those games. And it's tough. It's tough. I mean, but I don't know what we do now other than canceling. Russ says, another issue is if they start the season and one or more, multiple players test positive on a team, dozens on a team could be quarantined for 2 weeks. Correct.
Right.
Will they have enough players to play a game? Yes. Will their next opponent back out of the game for fear of getting the virus? Yes. Like, look at all these questions. Yes, Russ.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly right.
Like what happens if we have to, you know, if like they have to do the quarantine thing gets rolled past August? You know, nobody's going to want to travel here if they're going to have to stay here for 2 weeks. You know, we're going to have to play all away games.
Yep. No, I mean, yeah, that's why at this point we're just kind of toying around with ideas, and it just seems pretty impossible to really make something happen and work. But you know, I think our best bet is to hope that they can carve something out in the spring, or even push the season back. But it's just harder because tomorrow my favorite team, one of my teams, LAFC, finally plays an MLS is back tournament. So it'll be my first time seeing a team that I support playing a game. But even I'm nervous to see how that'll go, because there have been whole teams that have been taken out of that tournament because of the coronavirus. Like, can you imagine supporting a team and finding out one player and a few have the virus and your whole team gets yanked? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's not even, that's crazy.
I think it's inevitable that if we do go forward with this season, that there are going to be cancellations. There's going to be teams that can't play or can't travel because, there's a section of them that have coronavirus and they just won't be able to overcome it.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think
they're just have to forfeit.
There's an inevitability of such happening. But Shane, thinking about all those other fall sports like volleyball and the beginning of basketball, and you have Wahine soccer. How are we going to take care of these athletes? How are we going to even bring them back the next year? What do we do? Because they lose eligibility, right? They can't just keep the eligibility.
Yep, major. And that's why, now Macklin has really got to earn his money, because we have to figure out something. And it's scary because you hear a big school like Stanford cutting men's volleyball. Wow, man.
Yeah.
If a school like Stanford has to do that, I can only imagine what possibly Hawaii is going to have to,
Exactly.
So it's scary. Man.
And we haven't heard anything yet. Something Neil Everett said on ESPN Radio, and thanks Cavase. Cavase sent me the clip. He talked about. He even sounded even more, kind of dark than when he talked to Rob DeMello in terms of like his the worry that he has for the team, the sustainability of the program, and we're not even talking about the salvaging the season. We're talking about keeping the program. So.
The program.
Yeah. I mean, in March and April, we were like, okay, guys, let's get through this, then we can go to football season. Now we're like, okay, maybe no football season, but soon we could be like, there might not be a football season ever again if we don't get it together, because there are a lot of places that are not coming back, obviously, not after the pandemic, that we'll never see again. Institutions that will never come back. So we're just hoping for that. But anything else, guys? I'm kind of going through the comments. If anybody else has any other questions, we talked about this last week. On my Wednesday show, we, talked about obviously the Stanford issue. We talked about the Ivy League, because the Ivy League was the ones that were the lead in the last time in the basketball season, suspending their conference basketball tournament. And they were the first to kind of lead the way for the rest of the consolations and suspensions of the other leagues. But it'll be a little while, I think. When do you think, Sean? When do you think we'll find out for sure there'll be a season? When do you predict that?
Well, things just seem to be on a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, like, the shoe could drop, like, any day.
Yeah.
So.
I agree.
It's tough. Like, and if we're wrapping up, like, I'd like to send my condolences out to your family, Wayne, to your Ohana.
Thank you.
It's been a tough week, and on a happier note, I think we'd all like to extend a happy 5th anniversary to all our friends, Aaron and Lori. So happy wedding anniversary.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy time for all of us. But at the same time, thank you. I want to at least, personally thank the two of you as well for being there to help me get a lot of my content off the ground and be able to start something that's really great. And it's only the beginning, and all the great players that we've been able to talk to, and soon that'll be players that and fans and people in the comments will be meeting in person in the parking lot. So we're just waiting for that day to come. But I think that's all we have today. Anything you want to add, Shane?
No, just thank you, man. Yeah, and thoughts and prayers to you and Ohana. But yeah, I'm always looking forward to catching up with you guys, talking story. Although the future is uncertain, but at least we can talk about it.
That's right. Yeah. We can.
Yeah.
Well, and that's looks like our future is going to be, it's going to be very complicated, but we have time to figure it out. We have the rest of our lives to be able to, change the games as well. Who knows how games will, or sports will evolve, and how the fan experience will evolve as well. I mean, we talk about that a lot. And Hawaii sports fans, obviously, I'm about the fan experience and getting people into the games and getting them to really feel that energy in the stadium, because that's really that experience that I want to bring to everybody. And I look at, some of the old tapes and old games, and it's hard to imagine being able to do that again today in the world we live in. So we all just have to, evolve, adapt, and move forward. But thank you for joining us again, another Sunday. Wednesday, we'll have another show coming. Hopefully I get one of our friends in the NFL again, who we've all been talking about. But we'll hold that one off for later. But for Shane Agno, the Laulauhead, go check him out on Hawaii Football Net, and our friend Sean Eyman. I'm Wayne Coito. Take care, guys. Aloha.
Wear a mask. Go Hawks. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.